Okay, Jad, what's coming?
Double homicide, one male, one female. Killer's male, white, 40s.
Set up a perimeter and tell him we're en route.
I'm placing you under arrest for the future murder of Sarah Marks.
Give the man his hat.
All we have to run on are the images.
There are films that imagine the future, and then there are films that feel like they've quietly predicted it long before the rest of us caught up. Minority Report exists in that fascinating space where science fiction collides with philosophy, asking not just what technology can do, but what it should do. Set in a meticulously crafted vision of Washington, D.C. in the year 2054, the story unfolds in a society that has seemingly solved one of humanity's oldest and most painful problems: violent crime. Murders, once unpredictable and devastating, have become almost non-existent, not because human nature has changed, but because the system has learned to intervene before the act ever takes place. At the center of this seemingly perfect system is the PreCrime Division, a specialized unit of law enforcement that relies on the visions of 3 individuals known as precogs. These precogs exist in a suspended, almost dreamlike state, their minds constantly producing fragmented glimpses of future events, specifically murders. Their visions are interpreted through advanced technology, translated into data, and used to identify both the victim and the perpetrator before the crime can occur. It's a concept that feels both miraculous and deeply unsettling because it raises a question that lingers beneath every scene. If someone hasn't committed a crime yet, are they truly guilty? The narrative follows John Anderton, portrayed by Tom Cruise, a highly respected officer within PreCrime who believes completely in the system he helps enforce. Anderton is not just a professional, he's a man shaped by personal tragedy, someone who has poured his grief into his work. The loss of his son years earlier has left a wound that never fully healed, and in many ways, his dedication to stopping future crimes feels like an attempt to impose order on a world that once took everything from him. His belief in PreCrime isn't just intellectual, it's emotional, almost desperate. The world around him reinforces that belief. The city feels alive with technology that borders on invasive omnipresence. Personalized advertisements scan individuals as they move through public spaces, calling out to them by name and referencing their past purchases. Transportation systems are sleek and automated, while law enforcement tools are precise and efficient to an almost unnerving degree. Every element of this future feels grounded in a logical progression of existing trends, which is part of what makes it so compelling. Nothing appears fantastical for the sake of spectacle. Instead, everything feels like it could emerge naturally from the world we already know. But the foundation of this seemingly perfect system begins to crack when Anderton himself becomes its target. In a moment that shifts the entire trajectory of the story, the precogs predict that he will commit a murder within the next 36 hours. Suddenly, the man who has spent his life preventing crimes is labeled a future killer. The certainty he once had in the system is replaced by confusion, fear, and a growing sense of betrayal. If PreCrime is infallible, then he must be guilty. But if he knows he would never commit such an act, then something is fundamentally wrong. What follows is both a high-stakes chase and a deeply introspective journey. Anderton goes on the run, pursued by his own colleagues, navigating a world that he once controlled but now must evade. The shift in perspective is immediate and powerful. The same technologies that once made him effective now become obstacles he must overcome. Retina scanners, surveillance networks, predictive algorithms, everything that once ensured safety now feels like a cage closing in around him. As he searches for answers, the story begins to unravel the deeper mechanics of PreCrime. The concept of the Minority Report emerges, a rare instance where one of the precogs sees a different version of the future than the others. This idea introduces a crucial element of uncertainty into what was previously presented as an absolute system. If even one alternative outcome exists, then the future is not fixed, and the moral authority of PreCrime becomes questionable. The system isn't just predicting events, it's making judgments based on incomplete information. This is where the film becomes more than just a thriller. It transforms into a meditation on free will, determinism, and the ethical implications of predictive technology. The question is no longer just whether Anderton will commit a crime, but whether he has the ability to choose otherwise. If the future can be seen, does that mean it's already decided, or does the act of seeing it create the possibility to change it? The character of Anderton becomes the embodiment of this conflict. As he pieces together the fragments of his predicted future, he is forced to confront not only the external system, but also his own internal state. The possibility that he could become a killer is terrifying, not just because of the act itself, but because it challenges his understanding of who he is. The film doesn't simplify this struggle. It allows the tension to build gradually, letting the audience sit with the uncertainty. Along the way, the narrative introduces individuals who exist on the fringes of this controlled society, people who exploit the system, resist it, or simply fall through its cracks. These encounters add texture to the world, revealing that even in a society designed to eliminate chaos, unpredictability persists. The black market, underground networks, and morally ambiguous characters all serve as reminders that no system, no matter how advanced, can fully contain human complexity. One of the most compelling aspects of the story is how it handles technology not as a distant concept, but as an extension of human intention. The tools themselves are not inherently good or evil. They reflect the values and assumptions of those who create and use them. PreCrime is built on the belief that preventing harm justifies extreme measures. But as the story unfolds, it becomes clear that this belief comes with significant consequences. The removal of choice, the presumption of guilt, and the reliance on imperfect data all contribute to a system that is as dangerous as it is effective. The pacing of the narrative mirrors Anderton's psychological state. Early scenes move with a sense of controlled precision, reflecting the order of the pre-crime system. But as the story progresses, that order begins to break down. The pacing becomes more urgent, more chaotic, echoing the protagonist's growing desperation. This shift is not just structural, it's thematic, reinforcing the idea that certainty is an illusion. Visually, the film constructs a world that feels both cold and vibrant. The use of light and shadow creates a sense of constant surveillance, while the sleek design of the technology contrasts with the emotional turmoil of the characters. The environments are detailed without being overwhelming, allowing the audience to immerse themselves in the setting without losing focus on the narrative. Every visual choice seems intentional, contributing to the overall atmosphere of unease. The emotional core of the story remains grounded in Anderton's personal journey. His memories of his son are not just background details, they are central to his motivation and his vulnerability. These moments provide a counterbalance to the technological focus of the film, reminding the audience that at its heart, this is a story about loss, guilt, and the search for redemption. The interplay between personal emotion and systemic control adds depth to the narrative, making it resonate on multiple levels. As the truth behind the system begins to emerge, the story shifts again, moving from uncertainty to revelation. The layers of deception, hidden motives, and ethical compromises are gradually exposed, forcing both the protagonist and the audience to reevaluate everything that came before. The idea that a system designed to eliminate injustice could itself be built on injustice is a powerful one, and the film explores it with careful nuance. The climax of the story doesn't rely solely on action or spectacle. Instead, it centers on a confrontation of ideas, on the recognition that the future is not something to be controlled, but something to be navigated. The resolution feels earned, not because it provides easy answers, but because it acknowledges the complexity of the questions it raises. It suggests that uncertainty, while uncomfortable, is an essential part of what makes us human. In the end, the world of PreCrime is not just a cautionary tale about technology. It's a reflection of our desire for certainty in an uncertain world. The idea of eliminating crime before it happens is undeniably appealing, but the cost of that certainty is something the film asks us to consider carefully. It challenges the notion that safety can be achieved without sacrifice, and it reminds us that the future, no matter how clearly it seems to be predicted, is never entirely fixed. What makes this story endure is not just its premise, but its execution. It balances action, emotion, and philosophy in a way that feels seamless, never allowing one element to overshadow the others. The performance of Tom Cruise anchors the film, bringing a sense of authenticity to a world that could easily have felt detached. His portrayal of Anderton captures both strength and vulnerability, making the character's journey compelling from beginning to end. Over time, Minority Report has become more than just a piece of entertainment. It has entered the broader conversation about technology, ethics, and the future of society. Many of the ideas it presents, predictive policing, data-driven decision-making, personalized advertising, have moved from the realm of fiction into reality, making the film feel increasingly relevant with each passing year. There's a quiet irony in that relevance. A story that once seemed speculative now feels almost observational, as if it captured a trajectory that we are still following. And yet, its core message remains as important as ever, that the future is not something we should attempt to control at all costs, but something we must approach with humility, responsibility, and an awareness of our own limitations. As the narrative comes to a close, it leaves behind a lingering sense of reflection. It doesn't demand that the audience choose a definitive stance, but it encourages them to think critically about the systems they trust and the assumptions they accept. It invites us to question not just what is possible, but what is right, and to recognize that the answers are rarely simple. And perhaps that's the true strength of the film. It doesn't just show us a vision of the future, it holds up a mirror to the present, asking us to consider how our choices today might shape the world of tomorrow. In doing so, it transforms from a story about preventing crime into something much larger, a meditation on control, freedom, and the delicate balance between them.